Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Well, Mike, it's Sunday. It's Sunday, buddy. How are you, man?
Good, good.
How's the weather?
Oh,
Are you are
playoff
you are you
football.
in that brutal part of the country where it's in the singles negatives?
Nah, it's in the negatives here. It's not bad.
Not bad.
-7.
I'll take if it goes minus like 65. I'm already shutting it down, Mike. I'm hibernating.
-65.
Yeah,
We went,
if it goes below 65 degrees, I'm out. I'm done.
well, when it's, up in Wisconsin, this is par for the course. I mean, I remember going snowmobiling a few years ago, and we went out in the evening. It was legit -22. Not even with the
Yeah,
wind. It
that's
was just legit -22. And
there's no
we drove over to this bowling alley and it was open. The bar was open and we drank and bowled all night. It was -22 outside. It just doesn't bother these people. They're nuts.
hopefully you got liquored up and it warmed you up a little bit, Mike.
Always.
Yeah. And then snow. Can you get in trouble for driving a snowmobile under the influence, Mike?
Oh
Is that
yeah.
is that is that a
Yeah, I
thing?
tell you what, the last thing you want to do is drive a snowmobile drinking because that's a fast way to get your head taken off. So yeah, when
Uh,
we drive when we're on the snow on the sleds during the day, we don't do any drinking.
yeah.
This was drive over to,
Well, that's
a
no
mile and
fun.
a half to a bowling center and sit around for a couple hours. So
That's
yeah.
pretty good. How's the bowling game, Mike?
Oh my God, worse than my pool game.
Oh no, I've heard. See,
Oh.
see, you sound like a pool player already, buddy.
Yeah.
It's what every pool player on earth says to start off with.
Yeah. No, I'm a horrible bowler. Horrible.
Well, let us know in the chat if you guys can hear us. All right, we got a lot of stuff to dive into. It's been a fun week. We had to take a couple of days off though. Joey was so traumatized after Johnny, he had to take off to Vegas for a few days. I've just been sitting here contemplating what it is that what the direction of the show is going to go after that after that
Well, you gotta be considering some kind of Jerry Springer type of thing because look at all the followers you had for that Johnny Archer
it's unreal,
event,
Mike.
right? So we got
Unreal,
to get into
unreal.
some drama. All you got to do is get drama on the show, and you're good.
Well, I mean, listen, pool needs a little more flavor and a little more drama for sure. I don't know if that was the route that we would have taken it, although we weren't going to say no to the opportunity. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was an interesting show to say the
yeah,
least, and
yeah.
I think both of them came out, feeling like any pool player after a game, they came out thinking they got the better of it, So,
Right.
which that I'll leave that up to you guys who watch. But yeah, for sure, we were surprised. Couldn't I mean, you know, he had like 1,900 people watching. Mike, how the hell do we get
Yeah,
those kind of numbers on a regular? You
yeah.
know, so but anyhow, yeah, we lots of other stuff within the pool world to talk about, Mike. I don't really know where to begin. There's events going on in Taiwan. There's guys here across the states playing in events, 10,000 here, $20,000 added
Yeah.
there. Everyone's getting ready to head to Louisville in the next few days. Give me your thoughts on where the pool landscape is at, Mike, just in the overall on the world stage.
Well, it's just, now it's like, everybody's kind of slowly getting into 2024, right? It's kind of a couple of events to get things started. The event in Taiwan was, a great event field wise. Obviously 90% Asian, 95% Asian, but
Right.
quality players, quality field, good event to kick the year off. I think it was interesting that Sanchez Ruiz took off and went over there to play in that event. I mean, I'm not really sure what the whole, what his game plan was. I mean, if it's just to dive in head first and start playing killer competition right away in January and get into stroke as fast as he can, I'm not really sure. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
I think that's a part of it, Mike, for sure. I think just listen, there's no shortcuts here. We know the equipment change, and the best way to do it is start sparring with the big boys, right? And who
Yeah,
bigger than the Filipinos and the Taiwanese players, right? So I think it's a smart approach. Also mixed with the fact that they lined up some exhibition matches for him,
yeah.
and I think from there he won't be attending Derby, from what I understand. So I think from there he's going to go play some event in Indonesia.
Indonesia, yeah,
Followed,
that's where a lot of these
yeah,
guys are going is to Indonesia. I know Yap posted something about going and playing there, and yeah, there's plenty going on in that part of the world. A lot of sparring type tournaments here in the U.S., bar table, and different things going on. We got Derby coming up, which will be crazy as always.
I'm not ready for Derby, Mike. I'm not. I'm not ready. I can't listen. We're like the weather's gonna shift here, like today, I think, or tonight,
Yeah,
and I think we're gonna get down to like in the low 20s. And in South Texas,
yeah, that's
when it gets in the 20s, I mean, you might as well. It's Armageddon here. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah,
everything shuts down. So, but and then I thought about it, and I'm like, fuck, man, I'm heading up north right after that, like in a couple days,
yeah.
and it's gonna be even more brutal. I don't know, Mike. I can't. I'm not mentally, emotionally. I'm not prepared for. I'm not ready for it.
Well, all you got to do is get there, because when you go to Derby, you walk into the hotel and casino, and that's the last time you see sunlight for 8 days, 10 days.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter whether you're in Scottsdale or Southern Indiana. It's all the same inside.
No, well, that's the brutal part is that you're cooped up in that morgue for 10 days, and the only time you do get to go out and see sun is if you get a chance to go to like the grocery store, or you go into town to go eat, and which, by the way, I'm going to take up each and every opportunity of those this week or
Yeah,
next week. But it's tough in there, Mike. It's like the longest walk of shame of your life, because when you're walking down that corridor,
yeah,
right, when you're just like, what am I doing with my life? Because you're not going to get out of there. You're not going to get out of there for like a solid 10 hours, Mike.
yeah.
You're putting in a solid 10 once you make that walk, and then it's just like then it's
Solid
pull
10
back.
means you're getting more sleep than 90% of the guys there, so you
Oh
should feel
yeah,
good
that's
about
true.
it.
Well, that's the thing, is that you kind of have to prepare of which shift you're taking, right? Like,
Right.
are you gonna be on the tournament day shift, or are you gonna be
Yeah.
on
Are
the
you going to
action
wake up
night
at
shift?
3 in the afternoon and start up at 5?
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because whenever you leave, like if you leave the venue, maybe let's say 8, 9 o'clock at night, you'll see this like group of guys coming in that are all going to head upstairs, and they look as fresh as can be, because they just woke up,
Yeah.
and they're about to go punch the clock. So it's an interesting dynamic, to say
Yeah.
the least. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, it's pool seems to be going great globally, which is awesome, Mike. I know that like you mentioned, guys heading to Indonesia, guys that are here in the States are going to be heading out to Louisville coming up. Which event are you most looking forward to, Mike, in the next few weeks, or
Well,
few months rather?
Derby for sure. Looking forward to that, because that's kind of kicks off the year, and everybody just goes in there and starts swinging, and you've got tons of titles on the line, and so that's always a lot of fun. February, you get into you know uh, the bigger big table events, international big table events with Predator, Las Vegas Open, and the World 10 Ball Championship toward the end of February. So that, now you're starting to get into that bigger stage international tournament. So, certainly looking forward to those. And, when you talk about all these, it all kind of over one shoulder, you always got your eye on what's going on with Matchroom and WPA, right? Someone mentioned it before. How soon do you
Yeah.
think WPA will revise their banning clause, seeing what Matchroom's been able to do? I don't think they're going to revise anything. So really, the next couple of months are going to be kind of interesting and fun to watch. I think it's going to be really fun to go out to Las Vegas for the World 10 Ball, because that's right on the eve of this WPA ban, right? So, there'll be a lot of speculation, a lot of posturing at that event. I believe WPA might be having a meeting at that event, or I know there'll be some WPA delegates there. So you just kind of, wondering what's going to happen. Are they going to stick to their guns? What's going to happen on March 3rd? Things like that. So there's a lot
Well,
there's a lot of action coming up, but one eye is always going to be on how it's going to impact everybody after March 1st.
I mean, that's the conversation everywhere you go, everywhere I go. Even when I went to Sacramento, which isn't, it was the Amar Kang Memorial, and it's not necessarily like, it's not a world event per se, right? But even that was a lot of the talk that was going on. What's on the horizon, right, Mike?
Yeah.
And I know that's what a lot of people are thinking. Whatever, it was a lot of chess maneuvering. It seemed like throughout the
Yes.
last 6 months, but we all know there's the buck stops with one thing, Mike, and that's the players, right? So like if you don't have any players, there's no show left to put on, you know. And so with all these announcements, and not just like from a quantity standpoint, but the quality of announcements that Matchroom is getting, signing up to be a part of the World Nine Ball Tour. I don't know what leverage, if any, the WPA has left in this to be able to, because they've already pulled their ace up their sleeve, right? They've already went that route. They already hit the emergency button, and now with all the players, coming out on social media, and them announcing, I don't know what move they have left, Mike. I'm thinking.
Well, I think they're just going to wait it out and see what happens after March. See if people start having change of heart. Um, someone here mentioned
Change of
Philippines.
heart.
Well, they mentioned here the Filipinos. I mean, that's the thing that we've all been kind of sitting on the edge of our seat, waiting to see who the first, if any, Filipinos are going to sign to the World Nine Ball Tour, right? So, and we've both spoken to people in the Philippines,
Right.
Guys who kind of run the Marboys group and
Right.
some of the other players, and supposedly something's going to come out this week. Something's going to drop from them about what their plans are. If I had to guess, I'm going to say there's going to be a split. Some Filipinos are going to play World Nine Ball Tour. Some Filipinos are going to play, mostly Asian events. I mean, they've got a lot of issues there with they have a lot more difficulty traveling internationally with visas and things like that than a lot of these other countries do. It's obviously a high cost leaving the Philippines to go to Europe, to go to the U.S. And try to make money. So I think it's going to kind of end up being kind of a divide and conquer approach. Some of the
Well, that's
Filipinos,
always been like the mantra of these guys. That's
it
always
has been. They've always taken a
even
very
whenever,
practical approach to where and when they
yeah,
play.
even when
And
they're
I
here in
don't.
the States, Mike.
Right, right. It happens. So,
Yeah.
but we talk about things like who's going to sign, who isn't going to sign. Well, for one, you can't sign unless you got a contract sent to you, right? So we talk about these great young Filipino players, Bernie Regulario, Michael Feliciano. I would assume they did not get invites,
I would assume
right?
Michael did, because Michael would have been part of the one
Would he have been in the
with.
128?
I'm pretty sure he would have. Yeah, because
Okay.
he had some high finishes in the Philippine events, and I want to say in Vietnam. So I would think he would qualify within that range.
So you have Feliciano,
I'm just speaking off the top of my head here. I
you
haven't
have
done any fact checking.
Chua, you have Aranis. Which of those guys are going to go which way? And if they don't, I mean, what happens if they don't go? If not enough of them, if one or two of them signs with the World Nine Ball Tour, there's no Reyes Cup, right?
I mean, you can't have a Reyes Cup without the Filipinos involved.
Well, I mean, you could still, you would have to rename it something Asian and include all the,
Right,
because you're going to include the Taiwanese
but
and the Chinese anyway.
it doesn't have that same cachet though.
No, of course not. It doesn't
Yeah.
have nearly the buying power. Although, if you're Matchroom and you're looking to take it to Asia, there's markets there where you can sell. I mean, you could
Oh,
have
I'm not saying that for sure,
you
but
can
like
have,
just
if
from
it's an Asian team and it's called the Asian Cup or whatever you want to call it, or
it's
I
gotta
don't
it's
know.
gotta be the Reyes Cup, Mike. You know what I mean? It just has
You
to.
would think so.
You
Would
know,
think so. But if there's no Filipinos or one, you're not going
right.
to do it, and you're probably not even going to hold it in the
Well,
Philippines.
there may only get one Filipino on the team if they were to pick 5 players this year. Anyway, if you were to start dicing up, I mean, listen, at least from performances wise throughout the year, because you
Right.
think the top 3 spots are pretty much, you know, are not locked up, but they're sitting pretty good. Some of these guys, and so you would have to think Carlo would have to be in that mix, but he would probably get in on a wild card because he's not going to be part of the automatic. So. Then are you taking 2 Filipinos with a wild card? I guess with the announcement of it being a Reyes Cup, yeah, sure. But then guys who aren't going to sign, well, there limits your field right there. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just interesting to see, what's going to happen. You talk about Biado, who just won the tournament in Taipei. So Biado, Chua,
What's your gut instinct on Carlo?
boy, I have no idea where to go on Carlo. If I had to roll the dice, I'd say he stays in Asia.
Meaning WPA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to roll the dice on Aranis, Aranis can't come to the U.S., but right now there's really only one tournament for him in the U.S. anyways that goes with Matchroom, and that's the U.S. Open. So
Right.
play in Europe like he did last year, he could. Aranis, he's in that Marboys group. I think that I think they certainly have plans to be at some of the Matchroom events. I just don't know which players in the stable are going to be in that group or not. So,
Well, you got to think, Mike. I mean, you go WPA if you're a guy like James. You never get a chance to defend your World Cup of Pool title.
well, that's
It's big.
true. That is big.
And that and think about how big that was for the Filipino pool community in general, you know,
Yeah,
and how that kind of just solidifies their dominance or their place as far as being at the head of the table, and I think they take a lot of pride in events like that, Mike.
yeah,
I'd
they
be
do
surprised.
because they're all a lot of them are about playing for their country. They love that Filipino pride, Pinoy pride thing, and which is one of the things that's pulling them in different directions too, because they all want to play in the Sea Games. So I don't know, when you get down to it, how much leverage the WPA has in whether or not Filipino players play in the Sea Games. So um, we have to wait and see what happens. I mean, I think that, one of the things I'm looking forward to, like I said, we both talked to the Bar Boys group. They've got such great young players. That's what I want to see. I mean, I love Carlo and I love Aranis, and but there's these killers that are coming up, and you just want to see them.
I mean,
You want to see them on the big stage more often. And so if
their
they
box
don't,
office, Mike. Their
yeah, if
box
they don't
office.
sign with the World Nine Ball Tour, um, how long is it before they realize they're playing in these events where everybody goes, okay, whatever?
Well, listen. Let,
You
let me
won.
listen. Practicality means something in life because right now pool's not in a position to where it could one win can hold you over for hibernation. So you have to go out there and compete, but that costs a lot, and I get that. A lot of them have families. I'm not gonna knock anyone for choosing
Yeah,
what makes
yeah, got to
most
make
sense for
practical decisions.
them. But what I will tell you is, listen, you're not gonna get the same level of respect when it comes to a win playing in an event with a lesser
Right,
field. That's number one. You're not gonna get the same fandom and stardom and things like what all comes with it. All these perks of you saw these guys take media tours after they win the World Cup of Pool, Mike.
right.
Number one, I don't think that happens in most other countries. But number two, you never get that opportunity if you're going and playing WPA. Now, I'm not here pitching anyone on what they should or shouldn't do, right? But I'm just saying
Right.
from what makes sense. Now, you're right. There is a bit of a changing of the guard with these young kids who are coming up, who are just as, if not bigger, monsters than the marquee names that we've been used to seeing on the stages for the last 15 years, Mike. And so I'm excited to see guys like Kyle, like Bernie, these young kids who just show up. They just go deep. They don't really get a whole lot of opportunity because of whatever financial or otherwise. But when they do, they they let the world know that hey, we're here to play. I'm here to play, and so that just makes me want to see more of them compete with the top level players. Mike, I will
Yeah.
say that part of those conversations with the Marboys crew, we are trying to get Bernie on for later on this week. He was the runner up to Carlo at the Vietnam. I mean, not at the Vietnam, at the
Taipei.
Taiwanese event.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happened just this past week. So,
that would be cool.
um, yeah. And
Yeah, no,
so,
that's a huge decision. Just as pool fans, it's just a huge decision you're waiting to see happen. To see who's going to play where. So we'll have to. Hopefully, we'll find out. We'll find out this week.
lots of rumors and things online, Mike, about what WPA and Predator, and how Predator making their players play here versus playing there. Mike, give me some facts here, Mike. So is as far as what you know, So that way we can stop some of these like conspiracy theories that we see out there. So I've seen some things like Predator will tell their players they have to play WPA events. True or false, Mike?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look at there's Predator players who signed with the World Nine Ball Tour.
Bingo.
So listen. I talked to Karim, president of Predator, just a few days ago, and we talked about a lot of things, and because they're really caught in a tough spot. I mean, they've
Wait.
been
Caught is a heavy word, Mike. You kind of put yourself in that position. I don't want to say you got caught in that position because
listen. I don't think there's anything wrong with them
aligned yourself with certain people, and then now when it took a dive, well, you kind of you make your bed, you lay in it. So I mean, caught kind of seems a little loose for me, Mike.
Well, I don't know. To me, it's a matter of they took a different route than Matchroom takes, right? So they aligned themselves with the WPA to get those world championships. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. The Pro Billiard Series, they could continue to do a Pro Billiard Series and not have it WPA sanctioned. They don't have to. So they could play that end of it and still do the world championships, so they're just trying to put on events. So, that I have no problem with any of that. As far as the players, I don't see them telling players where to go and what to do because you see Josh making the decision Josh made. And, Karim told me, listen, the players, the decisions are all theirs. We're not going to tell them what decision to make. And he said, what I do tell the players is when you're making your decision, keep your brand in mind. You are a brand as a player, and that's where your leverage is, and that's where your ability to earn sponsorships is, all that kind of stuff. So, listen to your head when it comes to what's going to be best for my brand. Now, if every player took that approach, then I wonder, if you're a Carlo Biado, maybe brand is not important. Maybe it's just a practical thing of where am I going to make the most money.
But you also got to think of it. Carlo's a multiple-time world champion. Carlo is in a different kind of arena where he's got a stage to stand on of what he's built over his career. Whereas a guy who's trying to build a brand is a little different. Mike, you got to look at it where you're at on the totem pole, so to speak.
Where do you think Carlo Biado's brand is relative to other guys who are big names on, say, the Matchroom stage? I don't think Carlo Biado's got a huge brand in my mind in the pool industry, and he should.
No,
he's one of the greatest players. Period.
In the Philippines, I think it's a different story, though. But I guess just from how he markets himself, he does a really good job. And so I guess it would just depend on who you would compare him to, for me to have like a better discussion about it. I think when it comes to the Asian players, before you started having rankings, let's say in the last 2 years, Carlo would have been at the top of the list, from
rankings. We're talking about brand
everything.
So Carlos, and I'm assuming that's Greg, Carlo's unknown, so to speak, as a brand. To me, that's the way I kind of look at it. I look at someone like an FSR, certainly someone like a Josh, like a Shane, like, a Cole, players like that. Those are guys who have leveraged themselves as a brand.
No,
okay? I don't put Carlo in that boat, and he should be, because he's got the resume and the talent to do it. And you say because he's, this is the way they do things in the Philippines. Well, he plays in the Philippines. You're kind of limiting what you can do with yourself as a brand that way.
Well, I think it's a catch-22 for sure. I'm not going to argue that point with you. I guess if you're telling me what the guy does on social media versus a guy like Fran, I'm telling you Carlo does more. Carlo will stream his own matches. Carlo will constantly have updates throughout tournaments. You don't see that from Fran, really. Besides that Predator status quo, I'm in through the last 16 thanks to Predator, thanks to this, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, congratulations.
Yeah.
But these other guys, listen, Josh wouldn't have a brand if it wasn't for Pia. Shane, if it wasn't for the get your ass on out there, boy, attitude of Matchroom on him, he would never be on social media. You would only see him holding a fish in his hand. That's all you would see, Mike.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but whether they've got help or not, they're all leveraging that, and they're all making a bigger name out of what they are.
Right, but
that's what you have to do. If you talk about the Filipinos, part of their argument is that it costs so much money for them to travel. Well,
Yeah, but if you were to look at a guy who's in, listen, let's just be real. How old is Carlo? You think, Mike? 40, somewhere around there.
no, he's in mid to high 30s. Yeah,
Okay, so let's say he's got 10 years of competitive pool left in him,
maybe.
maybe, right? So if that's where I'm at, what am I thinking, Mike? Am I thinking I want to go play with the toughest crowd, or do I want to go and try to make as much as I can now? And I'll listen. I mean, it may not be the deepest of fields, but I got a pretty good chance at standing on a podium. You know,
Right.
every time
And
I
that's
every
and
time I
that's
do
what
go play.
that's chasing prize money, because the people who are going to get the value as, we keep talking about players as a brand. I just brought that up because it was a conversation I had with Karim. Um, you know, the players on
Oh, hold
on like a Matchroom stage, you know, and it's not just Matchroom. It's, where's the visibility? If you're a player and you're
Well,
playing
see, that's
globally,
where a
where's
guy
the
like
visibility?
Karim needs to. That's where a guy like Karim is smart enough to realize that, because at the end of the day, listen, Predator is not a promotions company. Nor are they a tournament company. What they are a Q brand, first and foremost, right? They sell product, right?
Right.
The only way to get their product in front of people is for them to have as much reach and exposure and all these things as possible. So why wouldn't you say go play WNT events? You know,
Well, no, because ideally what you'd like to say is go play in every event. Because now if you limit yourself to World Nine Ball Tour events and you're not playing any WPA events, you've already limited your maximum exposure, right?
right?
As
But
opposed to last year. So that's
and
where
when
what
they're
they're
writing that
saying.
contract, go ahead,
Go
Mike.
ahead.
No, no, no. What I was gonna say is when they're writing that contract, they're factoring in mind. Okay, what am I projecting this player to play? How many events am I thinking? Because now I'm thinking about the value on my dollar when I'm sponsoring that player. That's what these companies.
100%.
That's what these companies are thinking about. You know.
100%. And
So
what this is doing is limiting the value of each player now, because they have to make a decision. They can only play in X percentage of total events in the year as opposed to playing in all of them. Now, each one of them automatically is, worth less, right? So if you're going to be
oh,
worth less,
especially as this ban looms, because
right?
from their standpoint, they're getting considerably less value on their dollar if this WPA ban comes down, because now that player who I agreed to have X, Y, and Z contract with, well, now maybe they're going to be limited by, let's say, 40% less than what they were
Yeah,
playing last year, Mike.
yeah.
You know,
So if you're already limited, where are you going to get more leverage? You're going to get more leverage in which side gives you more visibility, more
and which
ability
side
to
is that,
market
Mike?
your product, market your brand. It's the World Nine Ball Tour side for sure. Right now, don't you think?
I mean, it's not close for me. Despite Predators media team, I don't think they're not in the same league for me. And
No,
I know,
as
and I
presentation goes. I mean, they get pretty good numbers on World Billiard TV.
they're not even
Those
with World
that
Billiard
stream.
TV anymore. They're not
Yeah,
even
they
with World
are.
Billiard. No, they're
Of
not. They
course they
they
are.
went they went off
Uh,
and started their own. They went off and started their own.
it's both. It's the same thing.
No, but it's not simulcast anymore. Is what I'm saying. It was a whole brand new YouTube channel from the ground, from like rebuilt. You
They're
know.
still tied into WNT. They're still tied into World Billiard TV.
Well, then that means they just. But why would you go from a YouTube channel with 250,000 subscribers down to a YouTube channel with none, and now you're building it back up? That doesn't make
Because
any
they're
sense,
both,
because now.
because the World Billiard TV is still making its money off of its broadcasts, which you're sharing with Predator, and Predator's building their own platform. I mean,
Okay,
I think World Billiard TV would have told them, listen, you're dumb if you don't do a little bit of your own platform.
we're gonna have a dinner bet on that one, buddy. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, Anyway, we're gonna keep on cruising along with it. So we talked Filipinos, Mike. We talked, the Predator landscape. How do you think that this ends up shifting here? Because we're in this stretch where, like, everyone's kind of quiet except for Matchroom, in the sense of, listen, we're announcing players, right? But like, we haven't heard anything
Matchroom
from the
doesn't
from
care.
the WPA.
Listen, Matchroom doesn't care, and nor should they. I mean, they've got their company, they've got their tour, they've got their players signed up. It's time to start putting on tournaments. I really don't think that Emily or anyone at Matchroom even gives the WPA 2 minutes of thought on a daily basis. The decisions and
Oh, we could dinner bet that one too, Mike.
I think that they're too busy. What is WPA going to do? WPA can't do anything to. So right now, all the conversations have to be within WPA and between Predator and the WPA for where, what's going to happen come March 2nd. And how is it going to affect us? How's it going to, as a Predator, how's it going to affect us as a promoter? How's it going to affect the value of the events we're putting all this money into? How is it going to affect, the WPA in terms of getting decent sized tournaments for these guys to play in? There's no doubt that when someone sees a WPA tournament, they're going to be like, whatever, nice title, see ya. I mean, and that's going to affect that's one of the things that I think that in the long run will affect the Filipino players. You want to play the best. You want to be the best in the world. You're not going to be the best in the world if you win the World 8-Ball Championship and,
nobody's there.
I'm not going to pull a name out of my hat because I'll offend some player who's not in the World 9-Ball Tour, but so and so.
We're not above that around here, Mike. By the way,
no, we're not. I've called out players before just to pull a name out of my hat, and it always sounded bad. But so there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff going on.
I agree with
the biggest one to me, World Pool Championship.
Well, I mean, to say the least, because that's the one, left affiliated tournament with the WPA, and from what I understand, there's just certain language in that contract where, meaning if there's players who are not in good standing with the WPA who are playing in a world championship, then there might be some issue, as far as I understand, Mike, and I'm sure as far as you understand. So,
everybody's going to look. I mean, both sides got lawyers who are telling them different things about what the contract says. The contract might also say Matchroom gets X number of picks for the World 9-Ball Championship. Period.
Yeah.
Not X number of picks of players in good standing. Not X number of picks. So there's going to be interpretation. So I think that the World Pool Championship will go on. All the World 9-Ball Tour players will play in it.
I mean, let's just be real. It could be called the WNT Championship. It's as simple as that. The World 9, and it's still going to be, if you have all the best players there, it's going to have cachet, Mike. It's going to have buying power. It's going to have selling power. Because you're going to have the best players competing. Matchroom knows how to build a great stage.
But there's value in history. There's value in history, which is why the first tournament that Matchroom bought was the U.S. Open. They could have come to the U.S. and staged their own tournament. No, they bought something with history because there's value there. There's value to having, the World Pool Championship and knowing that this guy won it in 2008. This guy won it in 2002. This guy won it in 2000. You don't have that anymore when you start your own from scratch.
Right, within reason, Mike. But listen, they're not. I would venture a guess to say that they're not above going and digging up a hole and planting new roots. Because something can be built from nowhere, Mike, right? Something can be built today and grow into something that can be just as prestigious down the road. It's not going to be like grabbing a burger from the convenience store, but it still can be something that can end up being pretty epic as it thrives and gets better in life, So, yeah, I mean, listen, I can understand both sides. The one thing for me from Predator is, look, you can't. I get frustrated when you've proclaimed yourself this leader and innovator in the sport, right? And you've done all these things, and you're putting on all these great tournaments. But then as the chaos is happening around over the last 9 months, you just conveniently stayed quiet, right? Because for me, Mike, leaders lead. Leaders come out and they stand in front of people, And so by their silence, it just completely leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. And I think it's very... what's the word?
Silence in what manner?
Pick in this whole WPA Matchroom feud and where Predator lies and all this, and what their stance would be one way or the other, and as it would pertain to players, Mike.
Well, I think that they probably are talking, but it's a WPA decision. I mean, their decision is going to be whether or not we're going to stick with WPA events, whether or not we're going to, stick with the World Championships, whatever. They make their decision based on WPA. They're not at the table with WPA making WPA decisions.
Oh, I don't buy that for a fucking minute, Mike. Not one single minute do I buy that last line, because they may say that publicly. I don't buy that Karim and Predator have some say, whether it's under the table or on the table when it comes to WPA. Because listen, go walk around the Rio last year. You know what you saw is Karim and you saw Aishan chasing him down about 2 feet behind him everywhere they went at that venue, Mike, all day, every day. You know. So I have a hard time for me getting there on that topic, and I think that's what that's what the WPA will say. But I'm not there. But it's going to be interesting to see how the next few months unfold, especially as the World 10 Ball comes up. You know, you're going to have March is going to happen, and players are going to be there. And I had heard a rumor. And where as these announcements were coming out, the WPA was just considering starting that band effective immediately, Mike. But I'd imagine someone like a Karim may not have liked that too much, Mike, because then you would have had a lot of players not able to play one of his most prestigious
of course he wouldn't like it, but I don't think it ever got to him.
Year.
I don't think it ever got to him. I don't think it ever got out of the WPA boardroom when enough people said, no, that's a really dumb idea.
Well, so I think that also started within the WPA boardroom as well, would be my guess.
Yeah, right. Of course it did. There was, you've got different people on the board. One guy says we should start a band right now, and everybody else says bad idea. Okay, that's the way boards work.
So, how do you think this is going to be after the World 10 Ball? Or are you going to be out there, Mike? Are you going to be out there checking and seeing how everything's going out there?
If they let me in.
This is how it's gonna go. I'm gonna do this number here. I'm gonna say, Mike, the coast is clear. You go first, and I'm gonna put a little air tag on Mike, and I'm gonna see how far he gets before he stops. And if Mike gets to the safe zone, then I'm gonna go in after. That's gonna be the plan.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'll be there, and it will be interesting to see what happens after that.
How long are you gonna be there for, Mike? I'm trying to plan on March right now.
Just the last 4 days or so.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how March is going to look. It's going to be super hectic from what it looks like from some other stuff.
Well, really, the band doesn't have any impact until Matchroom stages its first event, right?
Right, because then you're not you haven't broken any complying. Rules. Right, you haven't broken any rules yet.
Yeah. So what is the first Matchroom event of the year?
I'd have to look at the calendar, Mike. What, UK? Maybe, I don't know. What is it? World Pool Masters?
No, I think World Pool Masters. They've already kind of had
Mike. I could see some Bobby Valentine in you, Mike. To be honest, from Keith's line there. Yeah, I could see it.
Let's see. Look at World Pool Masters has already been announced end of April. I don't know if there's ever been any announcement on Premier League Pool. If there's been any announcement on, I don't know if UK Open's been announced yet or not. But so whatever the first event is, that's when the clock starts ticking. So
yeah. I mean, because up until that point, they're playing in a sanctioned event. They're not breaking any rules, so they're still in good standing up until that point.
I don't know what happens with other Matchroom, World 9 Ball Tour affiliate tournaments, whether that has any impact on it.
I'd imagine it'd be kind of thought of in the same regard, Mike. Now I could be mistaken.
I guess it depends on size, added money, number of international players, things like that.
Right. If it were to fall within that same grace, that same range of tournament that would fall under the WPA umbrella. Yeah. So, which it seems like more and more. Right. Love it. Yeah, we'll get one back. You're good. I think I'm hoping that there's some kind of moving forward, because we're already here. It's already time. The 6 months that we thought we had is already at our doorstep, Mike. And so I think they realize that, oh wow, we're not getting the players, right? Or at least the players that we thought we were going to get. So how can we adjust to figure out some kind of way of
Do you
having
think they
events
ever
going
made
forward.
decisions based on getting X number of top players? I don't think so.
The
I think they
WPA?
kind of assumed they were going to lose most of the top players.
Yeah,
I don't think it has. I don't think their move has much to do with individual players per se.
no, but I think like in their head they thought, okay, we would at least get, you know, a decent amount of top players to continue to play with us. Is what I think, and I'm completely speaking without any kind of not spoken with anyone in particular about that question or anything like that. That's just my gut there, So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know because you got events still like the World 8 Ball, World 10 Ball, and as much as I can say you can plant more roots somewhere, like I love those events, Mike. I want to see the best players play those events. I want to see the
Yeah,
best
World
players
Teams,
play.
World 8 Ball.
Yeah.
Those are good events.
Well, see, that's an event that like they kind of started and it's kind of grown into its own, great event on its own right. The World Teams,
Yeah.
without any history, but they're starting to make its own history, And what better way than this last year from what happened with Pia, So stuff like that, I just love, Mike, and I'm hoping it can continue, but we'll see. But nevertheless, Mike, we got a lot more stuff coming up. We got the mini derby going on in Louisville. We got the big derby coming up, Mike. And I know we touched base a little bit on that, but are you going to be out there at all during
No,
Derby City?
can't make it this year.
Does that mean Efren's not going? Do you know that?
That means Efren is not going.
Yeah. Breaking my
If
heart.
I don't go, Efren doesn't go. It's kind of
That's
our.
what
It's kind
I
of our.
figured.
It's kind of
It's
our
the
thing.
unwritten rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said if Efren's going, Mike's going to go. If Mike goes, Efren's going.
That's
Are you
right.
serious though? Efren's not going? Did you
Efren's
find
not
out?
going.
Yeah, breaking some news here. Efren will not be at this year's Derby City Classic. Well, either way, it's going to be a great event. I love. Listen, as much as I'll complain about how long it can be and stuff, it's amazing that you can go from one room to the next in this big ballroom and just find killer match after killer match after killer match just going on. And as a pool fan, you just love it because you sit there and sweat and watch history being made, right? You see guys like a Federer blossom into a one pocket monster. You see guys like Josh just show how dangerous he can be with a limited amount of time, but extraordinary skill develop into a top one pocket. But you just see like little nuggets like that. We see the Efren story of last year. You see Tony winning his banner. You just see all these great things. Shane getting another one last year with the Bigfoot. So many like awesome storylines that I just can't wait to see all over again. And
Yeah.
then I'll sleep eventually whenever I get home. And
For a
that's
month.
just yeah, at least, right? So,
We got the
but there
women
is.
playing this weekend too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You
Women
had
in Atlantic City, and
six
yeah.
players who were
Let's
left.
see. Let me guess who's in the final six.
I'm gonna
Kelly,
guess. I'm gonna guess.
Kelly,
I'm gonna guess a Fisher's gonna be playing.
Suche, Weiwei, Allison,
Yeah.
Christina.
Same characters, Mike. Same
Yeah,
characters.
that's 4 out of the final 6. I think the other 2 are Pia's in the final 6.
But she never plays WPBA
No,
events hardly,
she
right?
said she's going to this year. She's
Okay.
trying to look into the schedule because the whole thing with Josh, I taught the PA and Josh, and one of the things with them is that, now with Josh going World 9 Ball Tour, they used to be able to play in some events together, like the Pro Billiard Series events or, World 8, things like where they had men's and women's events going on at the same time, and that's not going to happen this year. So they're going opposite ways, and she's getting better and she wants to play in more of these events. So she talked about playing in more of the WPBA events this year. It's another one I'm interested to see how the WPA and WPBA kind of rationalize the WPBA having all these events and not being WPA sanctioned, because they certainly have $20,000 in prize money, and they certainly have fields that have more than 8 or 10 international players. So not really sure how that doesn't fall into the same grouping, but in any event,
Just
she
for
wants
the
to play
record,
more of the
if they
women's
start,
events this year.
just for the record, if they start barking up that tree, you can blame Panozzo because I didn't say that. No, just like I
Listen, they
wasn't. I
already
was
know.
not.
They're well aware that there's has to be some discussions there, and who knows, WPA could just say, listen, throw us $100 an event and we'll call it sanctioned. I mean, WPA can do whatever they want, right? As far
But this
as
is like, I can knock Predator for certain things, but one thing I do appreciate from them is their, having the women involved, and
yes,
especially them doing that like international women invitational only, because you're going to have ladies like, I think Ming's going to be there and a couple of other Chinese players who were great, you know, and I think that's what you need to
Yeah.
have more. Like, I love events, right? But the same storylines just get old for me, you know, and the only way to change it up is to have deeper competition, you
Right.
know, and having a way there is great, but you know, there's like another dozen plus ladies internationally who can realistically compete for a championship each and every month, you know, if they were to come over. So they have to figure out a way to bridge that gap, or what's causing that not to kind of come together, you know.
Well, U.S. is a
Um,
long way for the Asian players to go for
but then how does it
WPA.
work? How does it work for a player like Wei? Then would be my question.
I
You
think
know,
she's here 90% of the time.
yeah. No, it seems like she flies back and forth all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
You
she
know,
does. She does.
so that's just, that would be where I'm at. You know, because
Yeah,
for me, it's like the storylines from this past weekend were great. You know, seeing Savannah get Hill with Christina. You know,
yeah,
those kind of storylines I get more out of than like it's another Sunday and Kelly's in another final. You know,
yeah,
so because that, you know, that just happens. We're just used to it. Like, her greatness is becoming boring at this point. Like, from a sport on the women's side standpoint, you know, seeing a lady like Melissa, you know, beat some great players and cause
yeah,
some waves, stuff like that. I love seeing. I love seeing more parity in the competition, Mike. You know, where right now I don't think we're getting it. Pia is a player who can shake the trees a little bit for sure,
yeah.
because her game seems to be going up and up and up. But I mean, listen, Kelly and Allison are just unreal, you know. So, what are you going to do, Mike?
Yeah.
um,
Well, yeah, Brittany Bryant is in the last six.
is she?
Yeah.
Oh, I think
In
she's
fact,
playing Allison.
she's in the she plays
Hot seat.
Allison in the winners final.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, listen, I'd like to see her do well, and we saw spots of that last year. You know, we saw, I think, Sateva get to, I think, a semifinal of a Predator event last year. We saw
Yeah.
Being Hung make it to a final of a Predator event last year. So things like that, I want to see more of, Mike. You know, I just
Yeah.
do. You know,
Yeah.
because it's the same stories just kind of get a little rough for me, and that's just as a lover of pool. So, other events going on. Pool Action TV is doing an event, I think, out in Tennessee or something, some bar table event. Mini derbies going on. I don't know how these guys go and play one event before the derby, Mike. Like, I'm trying to get more oxygen intake and get my vitamins in, you know, on a proper scale before I even leave town. And these guys are already out there hitting the ground running, Mike. It's unreal.
Yeah. Mora matching up with Tyler.
Who do you like there, Mike? I know you're big on the one-on-one tournaments.
What are they playing?
They're playing 9-ball race to
9 ball.
75. Yeah, I think it's matchroom rules, but with the 3-point rule, basically, in a nutshell.
Okay.
So last time they played 10-ball, I think Tyler beat him like he stole something. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah, that's why you're switching to 9 ball, which makes sense for John. Um, so yeah, no, it'll be a good matchup. You know.
well, come over here for the great insight. It'll be a good matchup from Panozzo. You heard it here first. Look,
Predator schedule. Someone asked about the Predator schedule. Has not been announced. Supposedly going to be announced soon. You know,
well, you can
some,
kind of see
some
part of it on the WPA website, because they have some events that are already calendared
right,
on there.
right,
So, and there's a lot of noticeable U.S. events that were there last year that aren't there this year.
right.
So, uh, I
So
think they just go ahead.
supposed to be some Pro Billiard Series events in other parts of the world this year. Whether or not those happen or not, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think I saw. I don't know if it was like Australia or the Netherlands or something like that, if
New
I'm not
Zealand
mistaken.
or
New
yeah,
Zealand, that's the one. New
yeah,
Zealand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, okay, that makes sense. Sure. But we'll see. We'll see. They were starting to get a little bit of traction. It seemed like, Mike. So, and Vegas, I'm always looking forward to, because it's everybody's already in town playing the World 10 Ball
yeah,
Championship. So the other event just becomes that much better, and it becomes a long stretch of pool. That's great. And more important, listen, one thing that I love about what they do is the schedule, because you know who's going to play when. There's not this like long dreaded process. I mean, you almost have like too much downtime in between.
Yeah.
But like you're not getting beat to death like you are at the Derby, because the Derby, I'm trying to jump off the parking garage of the Derby. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, it's a tough one to fade.
yeah, but yeah, no. When it comes to John and Tyler, look, I think Tyler just plays more. I think Tyler just plays more of this style of a break, a hair more. Um, I haven't really seen any one of those two guys in particular go deep in a matchroom tournament per se. So I don't think one's going to get leverage or advantage there. But yeah, I mean, if you're John, I guess you want to swing at your money, right? So why
Yeah.
not? You know, but I
Yeah.
don't think Tyler's that same Tyler who beat him a couple of years ago. At least not for me, anyway. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that shapes up for him. As soon as we get more details, we'll be glad to let you guys know. From what I understand, Post Up will not be doing that stream. I don't know if Collins, was going to let me put that out there, but I did just put it out there. So Post Up will not be um, in the running
More breaking news from Molina Mike.
for streaming that tournament.
Collins didn't even know until you
Yeah.
mentioned it.
But speaking of Collins, me and him got a pretty big announcement coming up. I think we're going to try to announce it this week before I leave for the Derby. So we're just getting a few things in order to be able to put that out there on the page, on both his page and mine. And we're super excited for a really awesome opportunity to do a great event. So, or a great few events, actually. So make sure and keep your notifications on for that. I want to give a big shout out to all of our page sponsors. I forgot our other scrolling sponsors because Joey usually does the tech stuff now that we've done this new. So we're missing a whole bunch of sponsors over here they're supposed to be rotating. But big shout out to them.
You're really supposed to be calling it to their attention.
I ain't had coffee yet, Mike. Right? I'm about to head to the gym right now. Also, big shout out to Franco and Premier Billiards as well. We also got this month our Derby sponsors who are going to be up here coming up as well, from Prentice Cues, Lucasi Cues, JB Cases, Hard Times Billiards, How Tips, and Premier Billiards again. So yeah, it's we cannot do it without them. The week of Derby is going to be nuts. Like, not only are we going to be streaming some matches, but I'm going to be out there doing some sideline reporting as well. So it's going to be all hands on deck, lots of coffee, and lots of content coming out to you guys. So anyhow, Mike, I appreciate you for coming on. We'll try to do another follow-up. I think I'm going to try to get Joey on in the next couple of days. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week, Mike. It's going to be a fun week.
Well, I do. Before we go, I want to say how much I'm rooting for Allison Fisher in Birmingham, because she will be the first American. She would be the first American to win a WPA event.
Mike, give me a break here, Mike. It's way too soon. So now with that, so she would be the number one ranked American, meaning Kaylee would be number 2 and Savannah would be number 3 now. Is that what I'm hearing?
There you go.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. Would Allison be in the running for Mosconi Cup?
No.
No?
Nope. You like her head-to-head in a money match against Tyler or against Shane Wolford?
In a money match?
Yeah.
That's your reasoning? That's like my reasoning. You can't use
I'm trying to give something you can relate to.
So just a flat no because she can't beat him gambling. Is that what you're saying?
No, I just don't think she's as good a player as there.
Wow. Okay. On that note, we'll see you guys later. I appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. I'm getting the hell out of here before I start down that shit show. We'll see you guys.